The Pentagon, of course, continues to deny U.S. involvement, but Russia's demanding consequences for whoever is responsible. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov, I probably mispronounced that horribly, told Russian state news agency RIA Novosti that the Biden administration was at fault in an interview a couple weeks ago. They said the Kremlin had already formed the conclusion that the U.S. and possibly U.S. allies were responsible before this Hirsch article was published. And by and large, they're saying this was in the past tense, obviously, publication confirmed the conclusion that they had made for ourselves, that basically it was the U.S. that did it. Of course, there's still no proof. So it would be that's a reason to go to war. Now, 100%. Here comes the dangerous thing about all this stuff. The U.S., we keep providing military aid to the Ukraine. So there is a hot war going on right now in the Ukraine, between the Ukraine and Russia. And it's a proxy war between Russia and, quite honestly, the UN. And by that I mostly mean the United States. Because look at all the money that we're sending over there. So in some respects, I mean, I don't want to minimize the war that's going on, because the Ukrainian soldiers, they're out there, they're fighting and they're dying, and the Russian soldiers are out there and they're fighting, they're dying. But at the end of the day, this is like every other war. It's politically motivated, and it's basically, right, it's basically the United States against Russia, and this is an outright direct attack if it can be proven. Now, where it gets really scary is Putin just a couple days ago basically said that they were halting participation in the New START nuclear arms treaty. This is the last remaining non-proliferation, non-aggression treaty for nuclear weapons. He's basically saying that they're not going to participate in that going forward. So, is that him just blustering? It might be.
Well,
but what is blowing up a pipeline? That's kind of blustering too. I mean, the threat of...
He's doing what's best for Mother Russia.
He's doing, well...
Because
he's doing what's best, I think, for him.
Could be,
But for Russia, he claims to be a 100% Russian nationalist, so he's wanting to rebuild Russia to their former glory. Some of that's self-motivated. He wants himself to be in charge of all of that.
Yes. Legacy.
Right. I don't know, man. This stuff, scares me.
Let me throw something out there. Do you remember back way before the Nord Stream was blown up? Remember at the beginning of the Ukraine war where the Biden admin put all these sanctions on Russian oligarchy?
Yes.
And tried to choke out the financial, so that they would not be able to financially... That ended up backfiring on them. I don't have stats to give you, but that backfired on to the point where the Russian ruble was the highest, had the highest value as far as any monetary system in the world. The ruble's worth more compared to the U.S. dollar than it ever had been, and it was like the highest ranking. So these sanctions basically didn't work.
They didn't work. Yeah.
They had, and I'm wondering if this is like Biden. My first thing didn't work, so I'm going to do this.
Well, you see, I wonder. I'll just come out and say it. I have zero confidence in our current administration's ability to be able to diplomatically maneuver on the world stage.
Goes without saying.
I mean, look at every major decision that they've made. And they try to blame Trump. Trump basically said we need to be out of Afghanistan by a certain date. Okay, so Biden, we got out by that date. But he managed to screw it up so badly that essentially all we did is on that day we armed the Taliban with the most advanced weapon systems and military capabilities that they could have ever hoped to have obtained.
The sad thing is that we have completely forgot about that. Forgot about that whole thing. It's like
so much past history that it's not even real anymore.
But it is a major bungle. Major bungle.
And we haven't even seen the dark side of that yet. The anti-aircraft missile systems and stuff that they ended up acquiring, they haven't started popping up everywhere. I was honestly expecting airliners to start falling out of the sky shortly after that. Hasn't happened yet.
Right.
I have, like I said, zero confidence in this administration. I think this was another completely ill-conceived, not thought out, but in their mind, they thought that this would be a great thing to do, and it completely backfired on them. And I think it's one of those things. It's like they get an idea in their head, and they just let's do it, and then before they even think about it.
Right. No, I think I think you have to look at this whole Putin backing out of this treaty, this nuclear warhead treaty, as why would he not back out of? He has people sabotaging his GDP producing product, which is, that's probably their biggest thing.
That is one of their biggest exports. Yes.
You've got basically the whole world against you. Why would you stick to a tree with somebody that is trying to wipe you off the face of the earth? That's what he has to think. These things are happening to him. Nobody's coming to his aid like everybody is to Ukraine. He's got to think that the world's out to get him. I'm going to do what I have to do to defend myself. I'm backing out of this treaty.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And yeah, a lot of that makes sense. I mean, the reality is, okay, what's happened I'm not pro-Russia, so
I'm not either.
I don't.
I'm looking at it from a standpoint of put any nation in there.
Yep.
Any nation.
Yeah, they're going
to do
what is in their best interest. And there are reasons that Russia felt compelled to move into the Ukraine. And a lot of that has to do with the seaports and access for commerce and things like that. And the fact that the U.S. and stuff was really pushing Ukraine to join the NATO alliance. And so essentially, it'd be like if the neighbor that your next door neighbor, you didn't really like them that much, but the person lived on the other side of them, you couldn't stand. But your neighbor you had to use their driveway to get to the street.
Yep.
And so your farther neighbor said, well, you should just join us and put a wall up and not allow me to use your driveway anymore. I probably lost everyone with that analogy. Even as I was saying it, it was like I was confusing myself. But essentially, we were poking the bear with this. We turned it's still bad, but we turned what should have been tried to have been solved through diplomatic measures, and we are making it a hotter and hotter, real kinetic conflict. And
that's right.
If it doesn't, there's two ways it can go. Well, there's three if you want to go with the third one. It's weird. You can either de-escalate what's going on,
which nobody seems interested
in. You could maintain what's going on, and that's the one that's just weird because you can't maintain it. Or you can escalate it, and it seems like we are just bound and determined to escalate it.
I got a couple of basic questions. This is the way I understand it. Nord Stream 1 was above ground natural gas pipeline that went through Ukraine.
Well, part of it goes through Ukraine, yes, but then the main Nord Stream, they run parallel to each other. The pipelines.
Didn't they do one under the sea there so that they could bypass the fee that Ukraine was charging to get the gas into Europe?
And that was why they were trying to put the Nord Stream 2 in, I believe.
Yes,
part of it was to bypass
Ukraine.
Yes.
So okay. All right, so that clears that up for me.
Part of that goes into the whole with Crimea and the waterways and stuff there. I mean, there are valid. Okay, it sounds like I'm supporting Russia, and that's not my intent. But there are valid concerns that Russia had with the whole geopolitical situation there, that they felt compelled, in some respects, that invading the Ukraine was their best option. And honestly, I think what happened was, they figured they'd move in a little bit, Ukraine would go, give up, and then they would be able to get their way. They didn't expect a couple things. They didn't expect Ukraine to probably fight back as hard as they are. So kudos for them for doing that. But what they probably really didn't expect is like the United States to be pumping billions of dollars into it.
You know what? That pisses me off too. I don't know if there's truth to this. Are we paying pensions for somebody over in Ukraine?
A lot of the money,
taxpayer money.
Yes, a lot of the money that we've paid to them has ended up funding the pensions, primarily the government pensions.
What a bunch of crap
for the Ukraine people. So don't think for a minute that all this money you're spending is going all for military aid and for humanitarian aid. some of it's just going to paychecks for politicians. And I also don't doubt for a second, Ukraine has always been one of the most corrupt governments out there. I'll just come out and say it, there seems to be a connection between current government people that we have in place currently making decisions and kickback money, possibly through family
I know where
and
you're
friends,
going there. I know
with Ukraine. The whole thing is dirty. And unfortunately, the threat of escalating to a nuclear level is a real threat at this point.
this is a tinderbox. It's if it hasn't already thrust us into World War III, it's something that'll be a factor.
It could
for
very
sure.
well be, yep. I hope you've enjoyed this clip from the Craig's Gun Channel Random Shots program. The program airs Thursdays at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. On Random Shots, we discuss content from ranging anything from preparedness, survival, politics, firearms, basically anything that's 2A related, with sometimes some rabbit trails and things that aren't related at all. If you enjoy this type of programming, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you're notified when we release new content. And if you like it, hit the like button and share us if you would as well. It helps the algorithm and helps the channel grow and helps get our message out. So I guess until next time, stay safe.